All right, week 4. So you're over halfway done. Whoop, whoop. So this week, endocrine musculoskeletal disorders. So the endocrine chapter is kind of a mishmash of drugs used to treat endocrine disorders. So we're going to talk about thyroid drugs. And the thyroid gland is a big deal because it regulates cellular metabolism, right? So if the thyroid's not working or it's working too fast, that has, horrible effects on other body systems. So we're going to talk about drugs to treat hypothyroid and hyperthyroid. We're talking about corticosteroids, specifically glucocorticoids, which the main 2 reasons, or the most common 2 reasons they're given, is to reduce inflammation and suppress immune function. So we'll talk about diseases and drugs in that category. And finally, drugs to treat diabetes mellitus. So type 1 diabetes is the autoimmune disease, much less common, right? So this is, and you've probably heard, maybe somebody in your family has diabetes and they'll refer to it as sugar, right? Because it really is sugar. There's too much glucose in your blood. So it's hyperglycemia. You have glucose in your blood, as we all do after we eat, but if you don't have this disorder, insulin will break it down, right? And so if you have diabetes, you either don't make insulin at all in your pancreas or you don't make enough. So diabetes type 1, you're going to have to take insulin, right? So that's the autoimmune disorder where your pancreas does not produce insulin. And that's only affects maybe 5 to 10% of the population of people with diabetes. Much more common is type 2 diabetes, which is often diagnosed later in life. 90 to 95% of cases of diabetes is type 2. And this is the kind you hear about that's associated with like sedentary lifestyle, high-fat diet, obesity. So it's much more common to be diagnosed later in life. Juvenile diabetes is always type 1. But we're getting more and more because more and more kids are overweight. We're starting to see, diabetes type 2 show up in the middle school set. So we're going to talk about those drugs under the endocrine section. The skeletal and joint problems, we're going to talk about osteoporosis, all the arthritises, so osteoarthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, which is autoimmune. Osteoarthritis is kind of just a wearing down of articular cartilage. So if you live long enough, you will have osteoarthritis, period. Gouty arthritis and gout. We're going to talk about muscular disorders, so muscle spasms, muscle spasticity. Myasthenia gravis is a big one. Fibromyalgia, which is kind of hard to diagnose, but we're going to talk about all those things. And today's celebrity guest is Randy Jackson, who you probably know from American Idol. He's not there anymore, but he was there for a long time. But he's also a record producer, singer, musician, and famous type 2 diabetic. And he could also go in the GI drugs because he had bypass surgery to lose some weight to help with his diabetes. So we're going to talk about him. And here he comes. I'll see you next week.